The Jewish Channel's Week in Review. Taking women out of the picture at ultra-Orthodox newspapers, the rabbi hoping to take elected office in Uganda, and Jewish traditions so sweet you can taste it. It's the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. It's the ultra-Orthodox photo edit heard round the world. Those who are familiar with ultra-Orthodox media know that their choice to keep pictures of women out of their newspapers can lead to some interesting results. Last week, the now famous photo of President Barack Obama and his advisors watching the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound was edited by at least 2 ultra-Orthodox newspapers to remove Hilary Clinton from the picture. Samples of both were brought to light by the blog Failed Messiah. Even though similar examples have cropped up in the past, for example, Clinton was edited out of photos of the 2008 presidential primary debates in ultra-Orthodox newspapers, this photo edit seemed to capture the world's attention. News outlets everywhere were running stories on it, as were cable news outlets. And of course, it came in for satire on the Colbert Report.
Impressive. Normally, getting rid of Hilary Clinton requires an entire presidential primary. They removed her because Der Zeitung's policy to not intentionally include any images of women in the paper because it could be considered sexually suggestive. And folks, I am with the Hasids on this one.
But in the ultra-Orthodox world, removing unwanted content from images doesn't only affect women. In 2009, the Chaim Berlin Yeshiva altered the appearance of the only student in a group photo who was wearing a blue shirt to make his a white one as well, adhering to the norm in ultra-Orthodox yeshivas. Moving on from the discussion of removal of individuals from photos to a more serious matter of the potential removal of the Palestinian Authority's prime minister. In last week's newscast, we discussed the unity deal struck between Hamas and Fatah, and the possibility that the man seen as the leading voice of Palestinian reform and moderation, PA Prime Minister Salam Fayyad, could have been left out of future plans. Details and a firm decision are both still hard to come by, but some reports state Fayyad could retain a leading role in the unity government. Ynet News cites a report in the Asharq al-Awsat newspaper saying of Fatah leader Mahmoud Abbas, quote, Abbas wants to keep Fayyad on in the prime minister role because it would send a positive message to the international community, especially the United States and European Union. Abbas wants to make it clear to the international community that a future Palestinian government is committed to the same path as the current government. In a very different story of international politics and the Jewish community, the rabbi for the Jewish community of Uganda recently lost an election there. He was in New York last week, and Christian Needham caught up with him at the 92nd Street Y as part of TJC's partnership with the 92Y.
Uganda is home to one of the more unique Jewish communities in the world. The Abiyudaya congregation of Rabbi Gershom Suzumo devoutly practice all the Jewish rites and traditions, but in a rural setting that is extremely isolated from the rest of the world. Jewish channel viewers have become familiar with them thanks to the documentary Yearning to Belong. And last week, Suzumo was at the 92nd Street Y to give an update on the plight of the Abiyudaya, part of a series hosted by the 92Y's Resource Center for Jewish Diversity. Suzumo opened his talk with a traditional Ugandan greeting.
Olyootya? And your response is Bulungi.
Rabbi Suzumo then recounted how his people adopted Judaism early in the 20th century, thanks to wealthy Abiyudaya founder Semi Kakangulu, who had initially adopted Christianity from colonial English missionaries, but changed his mind after further study of the first 5 books of the Bible.
So he went back to the Christian missionaries and said, you know what? You tell me to be a Christian and a follower of Jesus. I have found something new. I have found Torah. I have found the 5 books of Moses. I am going to observe the rules of Moses and develop a personal relationship with the God of Israel. So instead, he circumcised himself and his children and his servants because he was like a king, he had a palace, and began to observe the rules of the Torah.
The Judaism of the Abiyudaya has continuously evolved ever since. For decades, they would still follow the biblical command to offer a Passover sacrifice. But when an Israeli embassy was established in Uganda in 1962, they learned from a secretary there about how Jewish practice had changed since the times of the Bible.
And it was Erev Pesach. he found the community preparing the Paschal sacrifice, the Paschal lamb, the Kurban Pesach, and he was confused. But then the members of the community wondered why he was confused. Kurban Pesach is commanded in the Torah. The Torah says, you shall make this sacrifice and shall be a practice throughout your generations. So he comes and asks why they were doing what they were doing, and they asked him if he was really Jewish. If you are Jewish, you know these things. You know that we make sacrifices, don't we? Little did they know that after the destruction of the Second Temple, no more sacrifices were permitted. So he taught them that, and since 1962, the Abayudaya stopped sacrifices on Pesach.
To hear more from Rabbi Gershom Suzumo, please tune in to the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Cold spring temperatures are finally beginning to give way to warmth, which means it's just about time to find ways to get a refreshing cool down. And while your local ice cream truck surely has plenty of cold comfort food, does any of it take you back to your early Jewish experiences? Well, one new brand of ice cream is hoping to tap into tradition with Jewish flavors, and Rebecca Honig-Friedman stopped by to get a taste.
As temperatures are rising and summer approaches, there's a new, deliciously cool way to celebrate being Jewish. It's called Chosen. This new ice cream, which may already be available at your local market, features flavors like apples and honey to connect with Rosh Hashanah traditions, chocolate gelt that brings to mind Hanukkah, and yes, there's even a Passover-minded treat, matzah crunch.
They're like, matzah, who would put matzah in ice cream? And then when they taste it, they're like, oh, that's actually really delicious ice cream, regardless that it has matzah in it.
But before the matzah came the rugelach. Chosen was born one summer day when the fisherwomen, Meredith, her sister Isabel, and their mom Ronnie, were looking for a snack and found some of Ronnie's homemade rugelach in the freezer.
And then we said, why don't we put these frozen rugelach in some vanilla ice cream and eat it together? And as we were eating it, and it was so delicious, we thought to ourselves, how come there's no such thing as a rugelach ice cream?
Soon Ronnie's rugelach was a reality, and Chosen now boasts 5 flavors, including apples and honey, coconut macaroon, matzah crunch, and the newest flavor, chocolate gelt. And while Chosen is obviously appealing to Jewish foodies, Meredith says their target audience is anyone who likes good ice cream.
Whether they know what a rugelach is before or after they eat it, they love it just because it tastes like amazing ice cream.
Chosen is also certified kosher and all natural.
We don't use any corn syrups, we don't use any stabilizers or any gums, so we really truly feel like to be chosen is to really sort of answer to a higher calling when it comes to food. And, you know, in this case, it just so happens that our flavors are inspired by Jewish desserts.
And flavor is Ronnie's specialty.
She's the CFO. Chief Flavor Officer.
Ronnie develops Chosen's flavors in her home kitchen in New York City and oversees production at a dairy and manufacturing facility in upstate New York.
Before they put it through the actual final process, I will be tasting it to make sure it's the texture I like and the size of the pieces going in are the size that I want, and and that the flavor is right.
But all that tasting isn't easy.
Some days I live on ice cream. It's not really difficult. It's a challenge, I think, just to get it to taste exactly as you want.
And also our palates, you're eating, some days you're eating so much ice cream that you just don't even know what you're tasting anymore. So then we have to bring in outside people to really taste it and make sure everything is what we...
How do you stay so thin, tasting all the time?
Well, on an ice cream production day, you don't eat anything else.
To find out which of Chosen's flavors is my personal favorite, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's all for this week from all of us here at the Jewish Channel. Be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable: IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, RCN Channel 268, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.